Well, let's talk more then about the SAPS today destroying more than 400 million rand worth of drugs, as you were seeing that led by the Commissioner Fannie Masemola. Take this up with senior expert at the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organised Crime, Jason Eligh. Jason, welcome to the SABC. Good to have your time. Does this really move the needle, if you will, as far as the fight against drugs trade and smuggling, etc.?
No, not really at all. I mean, the burning, the destruction of any volume of narcotics that have been seized will be nothing more really than a political act. It won't have an impact on the market at all.
Why do you say that?
Well, the market is so much greater than we think it is. And so these substances being taken off the market, we've seen no significant impact on the market at all. No shortage of certain substances, no increase in price and reduction in purity. So it's pretty clear that the substances that have been taken are basically the effect of unsuccessful trafficking attempts and really have no impact on the market at all.
And when you say the market, Jason, what exactly are we talking about here for those of us who are only exposed to the statements of arrests and gestures like what happened today, the destruction of what is really a large amount of drugs? Yes, you're saying it's not, shall I say, what's the phrasing I'm looking for here? It's a drop in the ocean, if you will. But how big of a market and who is in this market?
Well, we've got basically two flows when we look at South Africa. We've got flows of drugs that are coming in to feed South African demand, and we've got flows of drugs that are coming through South Africa. So they're moving from their point of origin, transiting through South Africa and moving off to a destination elsewhere. So when we look at the volume of flows, it's a real challenge to understand how much does South Africa actually consume. We might use as an example, we estimate there are around 300,000 methamphetamine users in South Africa. And so if you look at their average use of about a tenth to a fifth of meth a day, you have quite a substantial number of tons of meth being consumed over the course of a year. So if we're only pulling in 1 or 2 or 3 tons of meth in the purpose of seizures, then we're really not having an impact at all on the local market. The same could be said for cocaine and for heroin.
So for the drugs that are not intercepted by police, the ones that are eventually able to get to their intended destinations, be it in South Africa or elsewhere across our borders, what allows them, what vulnerabilities in the system allow them to get through the cracks?
Well, in the markets that we've studied around the world, the one commonality that really encourages and embeds drug markets and drug economies is the complicity and corruption of state officials, whether they be law enforcement, border management, port operators, or whatnot. The presence of corruption attracts, in a great way, these illicit traffickers and drug flows to either come to the country or to move through the country.
And is there any telling, Jason, at this stage in terms of that very comparison, South Africa as a destination or South Africa as a transit point for these consignments that come through, for instance, as the Commissioner was making the point, the harbours in Durban and in Cape Town, etc.?
Well, South Africa is wonderfully placed. If you look at drug trafficking as a business, you've got really 3 points of origin. You've got cocaine coming from South America, you've got heroin and meth coming from South Asia, and you've got chemicals used to produce these things coming from China. And all of these products, when they flow by sea or by air, tend to move in a direction that incorporates South Africa. South Africa is sort of in a great in-between all of these places. So it's a great place to come and transit in terms of either moving your containers from one ship to another or moving into airplanes I mean, South Africa is connected to the world, and you can move your substance quite easily that way. So it's by stint of geographic positioning between these markets, but also by note of an environment that has individuals anyways who are complicit in sustaining this trade.
And if the goal ultimately is to crack, shall we say, global syndicates, for instance, are we making the right sort of arrests? Because there are people who are often detained having swallowed drugs going through Tambo International Airport. There are these large consignments found at the harbours. But in terms of the people who end up in custody and face prosecution, how high up do they go? And how significant is the sort of information or intel that we can get from them if police hope to crack the actual syndicates and get to the kingpins?
Well, what you're saying is right. We need to refocus efforts of law enforcement on who are the individuals we're targeting. Too often, law enforcement targets people on the street, users, very small-time dealers, and that's going to have no impact on the market as a whole. We've got to really focus on getting the bigger kingpins. We've got to focus on identifying those complicit or corrupted individuals in institutions that are enabling this. We've got to identify those individuals that are helping move substances at a wholesale level. The companies involved as well that are contributing to the movement and storage and distribution of these substances. We won't arrest and imprison our way out of this global epidemic just by focusing on the bottom layer of people who use drugs. We need to move up the chain quite significantly and really expand our efforts in that way, particularly also in participating in regional intelligence sharing and other activities of the sort.
Jason Eligh, really good to talk to you. Thank you so much for being on the SABC tonight. Jason is a senior expert with the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crime.